Alright, what's up guys? Today we're going through elbow palpations and adjustments. With most Americans, we're going to be spending a lot of time in pronation with our arms at a keyboard and stuff like that. So a lot of our restrictions are going to be in supination. But we can start with checking pronation. So you can pronate their arm, find the back of the radial head on the back side of the elbow here. And with your thumb, you're just going to be stressing that P to A to see if there's movement. Next, we can supinate their arm, support their arm, and then on the anterior side of the radial head, we're just going to be pressing A to P to see if that goes further into supination. And if it doesn't, we're going to take the speeder board here, and then we're going to have the patient take their opposite arm and externally rotate their humerus as far as they can to get more into supination. We're going to support their distal radius and ulna, take a hypothenar contact on their ulna right here, or excuse me, on the radius right here, and we'll be pressing pretty much straight A to P. And if we were actually thrusting, we would use more force than that. So next, we're going to go into the ulna, and we can see just general motion of the arm by just kind of springing it like this if they have hypermobility or if they're stuck. And then we can go into another palpation of the ulna and support the humerus here, and we're going to be pressing anterior to posterior on the ulna just to see if there's any shearing motion between the ulna and the humerus. And if there wasn't, kind of the same setup here, but I'm going to be supporting the humerus here, taking my thenar pad on the ulna here, and just pressing A to P from distal to proximal to try and gap the ulna and the humerus to restore more motion to the joint there.
Using the wrist today for rotation, shearing between distal radius ulna carpals, proximal carpals, distal carpals, and metacarpals. So you can eye contact with the patient. We'll start with shearing of the radius and ulna. So we'll take a thenar contact with support fingers on the back side and shear between the two, P to A. It's going to be this motion, like rubbing them together almost. Feeling for any restrictions in there. Next we'll go into our rotation by spreading it out towards you on the posterior aspect to feel the rotation between radius and ulna. Next we're going to try to crack it like a walnut, spread our thumbs apart and rotate it towards the posterior aspect. And then we can get into our carpals, metacarpals. So we'll start by holding the distal radius and ulna and the proximal row of carpals and shear those back and forth for any stickiness. Then we'll move down to the proximal carpals and distal carpals and shear those. Distal carpals and metacarpals, shearing those. And then we can move right into our adjustments. Alright, so into our adjustments, we'll start by shearing the distal radius and ulna on proximal carpals. So we'll stabilize the proximal carpals with our distal hand. Grab the distal radius and ulna in the other hand, and then thrust P to A through distal radius and ulna. Next we'll move down to proximal carpals on distal carpals, thrust P to A, and distal carpals with metacarpals, stabilizing the more distal joint, P to A. Same type of deal for shearing of or rotation of distal radius and ulna. You can either rotate them out towards you or rotate into them. All of it's test plus impulse, thrusting P to A on the